So we have some breaking news that Bernie Sanders is proposing what he claims is the single boldest piece of legislation in American history. And I agree with Bernie that if he can accomplish this, it would be a historic victory for working class people, for poor people, for middle class people. Because we know that the aid package passed last week was wholly insufficient for the needs of regular folks. It might have been enough for corporations because they got trillions, but regular people got, $1,200 and basically nothing else, and they need a whole lot more than that. And so what Bernie is doing is recognizing that this crisis has the potential to be every bit as devastating as the Great Depression. And so to stop that, the government needs to be proactive, and they need to be proactive on a historic level to ensure that on everything from food to shelter to jobs to healthcare, that regular folks have what they need for the entire duration of this crisis. And so Bernie is sort of proposing a modern New Deal. Bernie's been doing that through his whole legislative program during this presidential campaign. But given that we're in this sort of emergency crisis, Bernie Sanders in one bill is encapsulating the roots of a modern New Deal. Here's just some of what's in it. He wants to ensure that as many Americans as possible keep their job. He wants to ensure that everyone has health care provided via Medicare during this crisis, not just for the current testing and treatment of the diseases, but for all health care broadly defined. Medicare for all, at least temporarily. $2,000 of a basic universal income for the duration of the crisis. The use of the Defense Production Act to ensure that basic necessities are produced without regard to profit. Hazard pay benefits for those workers who are on the front lines. $600 billion to help the states get through this crisis. Freezing monthly rent and mortgage payments to keep people in their apartments, condos, and homes. And emergency funding so that people that are on the brink of starvation can survive. All of these plans are targeted on helping regular people, whether we're talking about the very poor or we're talking about middle-class folks who are often not in these sort of crises but are now. Bernie is there for them. The original aid package, even the idealized packages from the Democrats, didn't achieve nearly half or even a quarter of these objectives. And if you want to ensure that regular people are safe, that they have the comfort and ability and security to stay home and practice social distancing and protect those people that do have to go out and work because their work's essential, you need to ensure that they are taken care of, that they have health care, they have a home to go to, they have a home they can stay in, they have all the food they need, they have a basic level of income security so that they can buy all the things they need and take care of themselves and their families and their children. Bernie is proposing that with this legislation. And this shows, yet again, guys, that Bernie Sanders is the leader America needs in this moment. Sure, if you look at the primary results, Joe Biden's winning, but it's Bernie Sanders who is leading. He's leading on this fundamental question of when a nation is in crisis, how do you ensure that you exit that crisis effectively and with equality and dignity in mind? And neither Donald Trump nor Joe Biden, nor the congressional leadership of the Republican or Democratic parties are considering that crucial question. They are not prepared to do what it takes, because to do what it takes is to fundamentally challenge the power and privilege of the rich and wealthy and well-connected, and to have an aid program which overwhelmingly helps and supports regular people. If businesses get support, it will be by virtue of the fact that they are employing people and that regular people will be able to buy the goods and services they need because they are being taken care of. It is not trickle-down economics, it is trickle-up economics. It's the idea that when regular people are comfortable, the whole economic community can survive and indeed thrive. And that's what Bernie is proposing, and no one else is even coming close. Reality is endorsing Bernie Sanders right now. It's endorsing Medicare for all. It's endorsing production for use instead of profit. It's endorsing the idea that healthcare should not be connected to your job. It's endorsing the idea that regular people shouldn't have to worry about food, income, and shelter. It's endorsing Bernie's historic vision. And now's the time to seize it. And the Democrats have to be very careful. I've noted on this channel that Joe Biden is a disastrous candidate in waiting. I don't care what the polling says. His cognitive decline, his dementia, whatever you want to call it, is a looming disaster. And beyond that, we have a man who still stubbornly insists that Medicare for all wouldn't be a contributing help here to deal with this crisis and to prevent a future crisis like it. He is plainly wrong, and he's letting his neoliberal ideology cloud him from the facts at play. And Donald Trump right now, and I don't believe Donald Trump, to be clear, but Donald Trump right now is musing publicly, musing as president, a Republican president, a very conservative Republican president, musing about the desire for Medicare for all, to use the Medicare system, to use the Medicaid system, to cover every single person, not just for the particular crisis, but for all medical issues when they don't have insurance. For all the people that don't have insurance or who lost insurance, they would at least be temporarily covered under existing government plans that are usually reserved right now for the elderly. It's what you might call Medicare for all. And if you think Trump's going to do it, I think that you're probably pretty naive. But if you think that a lot of people won't believe Donald Trump and they'll hear Donald Trump saying, I'm going to give everyone healthcare during this crisis, and you have Joe Biden saying that the private model is fine and good and that my public option, which at the very least leaves 10 million uninsured, doesn't need to be reformed, then a lot of working class people in swing states like Ohio, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, they are going to vote for Donald Trump, and they will be disappointed, but it'll be too late. Only Bernie Sanders, with his New Deal for the 21st century and his steadfast commitment before the crisis and during it to give every man, woman, and child health care regardless of their income or employment status, can defeat Donald Trump when he starts pretending to support Medicare for all. This is a crucial moment in the history of the United States. Bernie Sanders is demonstrating all the leadership you need to see to carry the country through the crisis and beyond it. And I know that if you give Bernie Sanders a chance to introduce this program, much of it can be retained after the crisis, and the United States would instantly become one of the world's most progressive and humane countries, rivaling those countries in Western Europe, being more equal than Canada and a lot of these countries. It can happen in the United States. It can happen quickly, but only if Bernie Sanders is made the Democratic nominee, and only if Bernie Sanders is made president.